Good evening, welcome back. This is World Talks coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Stalia Strzemska. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is stepping up his diplomatic push with a series of high-level visits across the Middle East, the latest one in Syria. There are also fresh signs that US-mediated peace talks could soon be revived. All of this comes at a critical moment in the war with intensified Russian attacks. So what comes next on the battlefield and at the negotiating table? To discuss, I have Ivan Horodyskyy, Senior Fellow, Atlantic Council, joining us right now. Good evening, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good evening. Nice to meet you.
So last night, Volodymyr Zelensky was in Turkey for talks on energy and security. Remember that a few years ago, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan played a key role in negotiating the Black Sea grain deal. So do you think he could re-emerge as a mediator in some form?
Yes, this is possible because Turkey is accepted even by Russia and by Kremlin as a possible mediator. So this is in contrary to, for example, European Union. So this is an acceptable mediator. But besides that, I think that it's not only for Erdogan, it's not only a question of international role of Turkey, but its national interests. Because currently he tries to expand connections, expand relations with Ukraine in order to make some arrangements, security arrangements in the Middle East, which are also vital interests of Turkey. Zelensky's recent activities in the Persian Gulf countries definitely raised the question before Turkey about their leadership in the region, and these negotiations and today visit to Damascus is a chain of Turkey's actions in order to ensure their interests to get along with interests of Ukraine in the region.
So as you've mentioned, today Zelensky is in Syria for talks with President Ahmed al-Sharaa. So what do we expect to be on the agenda, and how actually has the relationship between Syria and Russia changed after the fall of the al-Assad regime?
Yes, there are significant changes. Russian influence got lower. Definitely because al-Sharaa is welcomed by Donald Trump. Some sanctions were lifted. Also, Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs here, and 3 months ago he visited Syria to get negotiations, but not all ties were interrupted. Russian bases in Syria still are at least partially active, and Russian presence in the region and in the field is currently a problem for region and for Ukraine. In this case, I do not think that main aim is to stop this these relations fully, but it's also a kind of gesture to Erdogan and to Turkey, first of all. So because al-Sharaa is highly supported by Erdogan, and this is a sign from Ukraine that we accept your interests and we are ready to cooperate even with countries which still have some connections with Russia, but in return we want, for example, your more active position as a mediator in Russian-Ukraine negotiations.
That is very interesting. And there are also reports that Ukraine has established a military presence in western Libya and is using it to strike Russia-linked targets, let's say. So if confirmed, how significant is this?
You see, I don't think that this will be ever confirmed in the nearest time. In Ukraine, there are no facts even rumored or discussed. Yes, we know it from the foreign media, from Bloomberg, as far as I remember. But there are strong rumors, at least 2 years, that Ukraine and Ukrainian intelligence, they are taking some actions, some operations in Africa. To what extent, where exactly, we do not know. But what we should understand is that a Russian shadow fleet, which transports oil and gas, is a legitimate aim of Ukraine and actions of Ukraine in different regions. I do not know whether there are full military bases, naval bases of Ukraine in Libya or wherever, but still the landscape of war is expanding, and Ukraine will take actions in different regions, but only against Russia.
Let's stay in the Middle East for a moment longer. So Ukraine has also been deepening ties with countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE. We know Ukrainian expertise in countering Iranian drones is valuable, but what can Kyiv get in return from these Gulf states?
This is a good question. First of all, and first primary aim of Ukraine is not to stop United States weapons which are coming to Ukraine, because currently there is a big lack of Ukraine of the missiles to Patriot systems, etc., etc. And in the region, in the Gulf countries, they are using Patriots to shut down drones, Iranian drones, which is complete wasting of resources. These missiles are needed to Ukraine to shut down Russian ballistical missiles, aero ballistical missiles, other weapons. And we have much cheaper instruments to shut down drones. So for our first aim of Ukraine is that this small number of missiles should not be down with what we get from the United States, because definitely Gulf countries is a bigger priority for Trump's administration than Ukraine, and they will send more missiles to them in case if there is needed. And secondly, which was expressed by Zelensky as far as I remember, and we want in return to get some number of these missiles for Patriots from Gulf countries to Ukraine. So this, for the beginning, are two tactical aims. The strategic target, there is that Ukrainian export, drone export, military export may obtain one big market in the Gulf countries. But it is a strategic aim for years, I think.
And just looking at the broader picture, is Kyiv now looking beyond its traditional Western allies to build long-term security partnerships?
Ukraine is looking, and Kyiv, the Zelensky administration is looking beyond all security alliances, including NATO, including other alliances, and they want to build new chains, of security, new security networks, new security alliances. And this visits to the Gulf, to the Middle East, they're only a part of a picture. Zelensky is very active in Scandinavia, in Nordic countries, in Poland, in the United Kingdom, to build new alliances which may ensure and guarantee security for Ukraine in the long-term perspective. So this is not only a question of Middle East, it's a general question of the crisis of the international security architecture. Ukraine currently really tries to build something new, first of all, to ensure its own security.
And turning to the battlefield, Ukraine has increasingly been targeting Russian oil and gas infrastructure. And President Zelensky has recently said some allies have urged Kyiv to scale back those attacks amid concerns over growing fuel prices. So, do you think that Ukraine will cave in under pressure? And who is exerting this pressure? Which countries do you think?
I think that there is a big list of possible candidate countries to ask Ukraine for this favor, because oil and gas crisis, and we heard it just a few minutes ago, in the air is worldwide. Ukraine for last 3 years, I think, when these actions against Russian oil and gas plants and refineries have started, there are this requests from different countries, including the United States during the previous administration, including some countries of the European Union, I think, and so on. But in this case, it's not only a question if Ukraine may stop, but what Ukraine may get. Ukraine needs also, as far as Zelensky told this week, Ukraine in turn wants, okay, we stop our actions, you stop hitting our energy infrastructure. Because everyone needs to understand, Ukraine had not started this energy war. Russia started since 2022 hitting Ukrainian power plants, hitting Kakhovka Dam, hitting all energy infrastructure.
It has now been a little over 1,500 days since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and civilian casualties have reportedly risen sharply by roughly 30% year on year. So what explains that surge? Is it mainly changes in Russia's tactics, Ukraine air defense shortages, or just the growing intensity of strikes in urban areas, for instance? What is the explanation?
First of all, Russia started to use much more drones, which are much more less precise weapons. So in night from 500 to 1,000 drones are used, of course, they will be hitting not only military targets, or energy targets. They, in the last minutes, when they, for example, they understand that they run out from fuel, or they need to target something, they will be targeting everything what they see. So this is the logic of Russian warfare, confirmed by centuries of history. And this is one and first region. So a second region, you mentioned shortages of of Patriots, of missile which protects our air defense systems. So this is a big problem, and that's why, as I mentioned, Ukraine is very active in the Gulf countries to stop, not to allow to stop these missiles are sent to Ukraine by the United States. And so these are more drones and shortages of anti-drone and anti-missile systems.
As you mentioned, Russia has been launching hundreds of drones almost daily recently. At the same time, President Zelensky said the frontline situation is the best it has been in 10 months. So how do these two realities fit together? Are we seeing a shift in Russian strategy? Is gaining ground still a priority for them? Or is it increasingly about inflicting indiscriminate damage?
Yeah, I'm not fully agree with our president. First of all, Zelensky mentioned the situation on the ground, especially in the Donbas region. This was the first point, because really the situation there, Russian advance is slowing down, and even if we see during the last year, it's not so critical. Yes, it's tragical. Every square kilometer we're losing is a big tragedy for Ukraine, but they are advancing very, very slowly. But when we are taking a bigger picture, taking situation with Russian attacks of Ukrainian cities, the situation, economy, etc., demographics, etc. So situation still is very complicated, but it is complicated for all sides, and I really cannot agree that Russia is feeling and Kremlin is feeling itself very okay. This war lasts too long to be comfortable to any party.
Ivan, before we go, Kirill Budanov, Zelensky's chief of staff, said that a team of U.S. officials led by President Trump's envoys Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, might head to Kyiv this month in a bid to relaunch peace talks. Shall we get our hopes up?
I think there is a big chance that this visit will take place, but I'm skeptical that it will mean some bigger progress in negotiations, at least in the short perspective, because really Russia still they're not ready to negotiate in good faith. And this is very obvious, and we are seeing it during all the previous rounds.
Ivan Horodyskyy, Senior Fellow, Atlantic Council, thank you so very much for joining us this evening and for your insights.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.